good news from the Vatican. Inter. Ever since I read Baron Corvo's remarkable novel Hadrian the Seventh in 1955, I have amused myself with the fantasy of being elected Pope, an ambition complicated to some degree by the fact that I am not in holy orders, nor a Roman Catholic, nor indeed any kind of Christian at all. As my friends now, I duly submit an application whenever a vacancy occurs at the Vatican, but as of this date, the Church has not yet seen fit to make use of my services. All the same, I keep close watch over events in the Holy City, as I bide my time, and in the pursuit of this not entirely serious career plan, I have learned a good deal about the rituals and tensions surrounding the elections of a pontiff. This led me one chilly but light-hearted day in February 1971 to produce this sly, playful story of the accession of the first robot to the Holy See. The robot is in fact meant to be my own successor, that the point is made only through an oblique private reference in the final paragraph. At that time a year and a half had passed since the completion of rebuilding work on my New York house, and it was even more handsome than it had been before the fire. I assumed it would live there for the rest of my life, but some sort of uneasiness was stirring in my soul even then, for the winter of 1971 was unusually snowy in New York, and as the white drifts piled up outside the door, I began to tell people that I yearned for some warmer climate. On the February day when Terry Carr called to ask me to write a story for Universe, his new anthology of previously published short stories, I was, as a matter of fact, writing The Book of Skulls, a novel set in the torrid Arizona desert. If you are going to search for this anthology, you will need to search for Universe 1 issue. Carr, then at the peak of his distinguished career as a science fiction editor for Ace Books, told me that he was approaching the deadline for delivery of the first volume of Universe, and was badly in need of work by authors with recognizable names. He had been asking me for a story for weeks, but I was busy with my novel, and I put him off. But now he appealed bluntly to me to help him out. Since was a persuasive man and a close friend, besides, I agreed to do a quick short story for him. What to write about? Well, I thought, casting about quickly, suppose they elect a robot as a pope, that ought to be worth 3,000 words or so for amiable foolery, right? My own pretense of interest in attaining the papacy and my knowledge of mechanics of papal elections would help me make the story reasonably convincing. A couple of hours work and day in his new anthology would be off my conscience. So I sat down and wrote good news from the Vatican just about as quickly as I could type it out. Terry was amused by its cool, detached, tongue-in-cheek mud of irony, which I was beginning to employ more and more as I entered my third decade as a writer, and published it in the first issue of Universe 1, with a brief introduction noting that although my stories were unusually quite serious in tone, this one was a bit on the silly side, although nevertheless quite thoughtful and ingenious, etc., etc. A couple of unexpected ironies proceeded from this enterprise. The little story I had written so swiftly that Snowy February Day caught everybody's attention, was nominated for a Nebula Award and won the trophy for me, the second of ultimately 5 tables, the following spring. I won my third the same night, for the novel A Time of Change. I collected my awards not in New York but at a ceremony held in California, for, much to my astonishment, the inner uneasiness of February had culminated by late summer in a series of explosive personal upheavals that had caused me to sell my New York house and move westward, a few months after Terry Carr himself had done the very same thing, and also, rather sadly actually, a decade and a half after I had helped Terry get Universe started by hastily writing an award-winning story for his first issue, I found myself taking his place as its editor when his publisher decided to continue the anthology as a memorial to him following his untimely death in 1987. End of winter, start of story. This is the morning everyone has been waiting for, when at last the robot cardinal is to be elected pope. There can no longer be any doubt of the outcome. The conclave has been deadlocked for many days between the obstinate advocates of Cardinal Ashuga of Milan and Cardinal Kirchhoff of Genoa, and word has gone out that a compromise is in the making. All factions now are agreed on the selection of the robot. This morning I read in L'Osservatore Romano that the Vatican computer itself has taken a hand in the deliberations. The computer has been strongly urging the candidacy of the robot. I suppose we should not be surprised by this loyalty among machines, nor should we let it distress us. We absolutely must not let it distress us. Every era gets the pope it deserves, Bishop Fitzpatrick observed somewhat gloomily today at breakfast. The proper pope for our times is the robot, certainly. At some future date it may be desirable for the pope to be a whale, an automobile, a cat, a mountain. Bishop Fitzpatrick stands well over 2 meters in height, and his normal facial expression is a morbid, mournful one. Thus, it's impossible for us to determine whether any particular pronouncement of his reflects existential despair or placid acceptance. Many years ago he was a star player for the Holy Cross Championship basketball team. He has come to Rome to do research for a biography of Saint Marcellus the Righteous. We have been watching the unfolding drama of the papal election from an outdoor cafe several blocks from the square of St. Peter's. For all of us, this has been an unexpected dividend of our holiday in Rome. The previous pope was reputed to be in good health, and there was no reason to suspect that a successor would have to be chosen for him this summer. Each morning we drive across by taxi from our hotel near the Via Veneto and take up our regular positions around our table. From where we sit, we'll have a clear view of the Vatican chimney through which the smoke of the burning ballots rises. Black smoke if no pope has been elected, white if the conclave has been successful. Luigi, the owner and head waiter, automatically brings us our preferred beverages. Fernet Branca for Bishop Fitzpatrick, Campari and soda for Rabbi Müller, Turkish coffee for Miss Herschel, lemon squash for Kenneth and Beverly, and Pernod on the rocks for me. We take turns paying the check. Kenneth has not paid it ever once since our vigil began. Kenneth. Yesterday, when Miss Herschel paid, she emptied her purse and found herself 350 lire short. She had nothing else except $100 traveler's checks. The rest of us looked pointedly at Kenneth. No, but he went on calmly, sipping his lemon squash. After a brief period of tension, Rabbi Müller produced a 500 lire coin and rather irascibly slapped the heavy silver piece against the table. The rabbi is known for his short temper and vehement style. He is 28 years old, customarily dresses in fashionable plaid cassock and silvered sunglasses, and frequently boasts that he has never performed a bar mitzvah ceremony for his congregation, which is in Wicomico County, Maryland. He believes that the rite is vulgar and obsolete, and invariably farms out all his bar mitzvahs to a franchised organization of itinerant clergymen who handle such affairs on a commission basis. Rabbi Müller is an authority on angels. Our group is divided over the merits of electing a robot as the new pope. Bishop Fitzpatrick, Rabbi Müller, and I are in favor of the idea. Miss Herschel, Kenneth, and Beverly are opposed. It's interesting to note that both of our gentlemen of the cloth, one quite elderly and one fairly young, support this remarkable departure from tradition, yet that they, the wingers among us, do not. I am not sure why I align myself with the progressives. I am a man of mature years and fairly sedate ways, nor have I ever concerned myself with the doings of the Church of Rome. I am unfamiliar with Catholic dogma and unaware of recent currents of thought within the Church. Still, I have been hoping for the election of the nobles in the start of the conclave. Why, I wonder? Is it because the image of a metal creature on the throne of St. Peter stimulates my imagination and tickles my sense of incongruous? That is my support of the robot purely an aesthetic matter, or is it rather a function of my moral cowardice? Do I secretly think that this gesture will buy the robots off? Am I privately saying, give them the papacy and maybe they won't want other things for a while? No, I can't believe anything so unworthy of myself. Possibly I am for the robot because I am a person of unusual sensitivity to the needs of others. If he is elected, says Rabbi Müller, he plans an immediate time-sharing agreement with the Dalai Lama and a reciprocal plug-in with the head programmer of the Greek Orthodox Church, just for the starters. I am told he will make ecumenical overtures to the rabbinate as well, which is certainly something for all of us to look forward to. I don't doubt that there will be many corrections in the customs and practices of the hierarchy, Bishop Fitzpatrick declares. For example, we can look forward to superior information gathering techniques. At the Vatican, computer is given a greater role in the operations of the Curia. Let me illustrate why. What an utterly ghastly notion, Kenneth says. He is gaudy young man with white hair and pink eyes. Beverly is either his wife or his sister, I don't know. She rarely speaks. Kenneth makes the sign of cross with offensive bassness and murmurs. In the name of Father, the Son, and the Holy Automaton. Miss Harshaw giggles. Not chokes the giggle off when she sees my disapproving face. Dejectedly, but not responding at all to the interruption, Bishop Fitzpatrick continues. Let me illustrate by giving you some figures I obtained yesterday afternoon. I read in the newspaper Oggi that during the last 5 years, according to spokesman for Missions Authorities High, the Church has increased its membership in Yugoslavia from 19,381,403 persons to millions 501,062 person. But the government census taken last year gives the total population of Yugoslavia at 23,575,194. That leaves only 74,132 people for the other religious and religious bodies. Aware of the large Muslim population of Yugoslavia, I suspected an inaccuracy in the published statistic and consulted the computer in St. Peter's, which informed me. The bishop then produces a lengthy printout and unfolded across much of the table that the last count of the faithful in Yugoslavia, made a year and a half ago, places our numbers at 14,206,198. Therefore, an overstatement of 9,294,864 has been made, which is absurd and perpetuated, which is damnable. What does he look like? Miss Herschel asks. Does anyone have any idea? He's like all the rest, says Kenneth. A shiny metal box with wheels below and eyes on top. You haven't seen him, Bishop Fitzpatrick interjects. I don't think it's proper for you to assume that they're all alike, Kenneth says. Once you have seen one, you have seen all of them. Shiny boxes, wheels, eyes, and voices coming out of their bellies like mechanized belches. Inside they're all cocks and jeers. Kenneth shudders delicately. It's too much for me to accept. Let's have another round of drinks. Shall we? Rabbi Müller says, it so happens that I've seen him with my own eyes. You have? Beverly exclaims. Kenneth scolds at her. Luigi, approaching, brings a tray of new drinks for everyone. I handed him an 5,000 lire note. Rabbi Müller removes his sunglasses and breathes on the brilliantly reflective faces. He has small, watery gray eyes and a bad squint. He says, the Cardinal was the keynote speaker at the Congress of the World Jury that was held last fall in Beirut. His theme was cybernetic ecumenism for contemporary men. I was there. I can tell you that his eminency is tall and distinguished, with a fine voice and gentle smile. There is something inherently melancholic about his manner that reminds me greatly of our friend the bishop here. His movements are graceful in his witty skin. Mm. But he is mounted on wheels, isn't he? Kenneth persists. On threads, replies the rabbi, giving Kenneth a weary, devastating look and resuming his sunglasses. Threads like a tractor has, but I don't think that threads are spiritually inferior to feet, or for that matter to wheels. If I were a Catholic, I would be proud to have a man like that as my Pope. Not a man, Miss Harshaw puts in, a giddy, a giddy edge enters her voice whatever she addresses Rabbi Müller. A robot, she says. He is not a man, remember. A robot like that as my Pope, then, Rabbi Müller says, shrugging at the correction. He raises his glass. To the new Pope. To the new Pope, cries Bishop Fitzpatrick. To the new Pope. Luigi comes rushing from his cafe. Kenneth waves him away. Wait a second, Kenneth says. The election isn't over yet. How can you be so sure? The L'Osservatore Romano, I say, indicates in this morning's edition that everything will be decided today. Cardinal Kirchhofer has agreed to withdraw in his favor in return for a larger real-time allotment when the new computer house are decreed at next year's consistory. In other words, the fix is in, Kenneth says. Bishop Fitzpatrick sadly shakes his head. You state things much too harshly, my son. For 3 weeks now we have been without a Holy Father. It is God's will that we shall have a Pope. The conclave, unable to choose between the candidacies of Cardinal Kirchhofer and Cardinal Ashuga, towards that will. If necessary, there was. Therefore, we must make certain accommodations with realities of the times, so that his will shall not be further frustrated. Prolonged politician within the conclave now becomes sinful. Cardinal Kirchhofer's sacrifice of his personal ambitions is not as self-seeking an act as you would claim. Kenneth continues to attack poor Kirchhofer's motives for withdrawing. Beverly occasionally applauds his cruel sallies. Miss Herschel several times declares her unwillingness to remain a communicant of a church whose leader is the machine. I find this dispute distasteful and swing my chair away from the table to have a better view of the Vatican. At this moment, the cardinals are meeting in the Sistine Chapel. Now I wish I were there. What a splendid mysteries are being enacted in that gloomy, magnificent room. Each prince of the church now sits on a small throne surmounted by violet-hued canopy. Fat, wet wax tapers glimmer on the desk before each throne. Masters of ceremonies move solemnly through the vast chamber, carrying the silver basins on which the blank ballots repose. These basins are placed on the table before the altar. One by one the cardinals advance to the table, take ballots, return to their desks. Now lifting their quill pens, they begin to write. I, Cardinal, that and that, elect to the supreme pontificate the most reverend Lord, my Lord Cardinal, that or that. What name do they fill in? Is it Karchov? Is it Ashuga? Is it the name of some obscure and shriveled prelate from Madrid or Heidelberg? Some last-minute choice of the anti-robot faction in its desperation? Or are they writing his name? The sound of scratching pens is loud in the chapel. The cardinals are completing their ballots, sealing them at the ends, folding them again and again, carrying them to the altar, dropping them into the great gold chalice. So had they done every morning and every afternoon for days, as the deadlock has prevailed. I read in the Herald Tribune a couple of days ago, says Miss Harshaw, that a delegation of 250 young Catholic robots from Iowa is waiting in the Des Moines airport for news of the election. If their man gets in, they got a chartered flight ready to leave, and they intend to request that they be granted the Holy Father's first public audience. There can be no doubt, Bishop Fitzpatrick agrees, that his election will bring a great many people of synthetic origin into the fold of church. While they're having out plenty of flesh and blood people, Miss Harshaw says shrilly. I doubt that, says the bishop. Certainly there will be some feelings of shock, of dismay, of injury, of loss for some of us at first, but this will pass. The inherent goodness of the new pope, to which Rabbi Müller alluded, will prevail. Also, I believe that technologically minded young folk everywhere will be encouraged to join the church. Irresistible religious impulses will be awakened through the world. Can you imagine 250 robots clanging into St. Peter's? Miss Harshaw demands. I contemplate the distant Vatican. The morning sunlight is brilliant and dazzling, but assembled cardinals, walled away from the world, cannot enjoy its gay sparkle. They all have voted now, the 3 cardinals who were chosen by lot as this morning's scrutators of the world have risen. One of them lifts the chalice and shakes it, mixing the ballots. Then he places it on the new table before the altar. A second scrutator removes the ballots and counts them. He ascertains that the number of ballots is identical to the number of cardinals present. The ballots now have been transferred to a ciborium, which is a goblet ordinarily used to hold the consecrated bread of the Mass. The first scrutinator withdraws the ballot, unfolds it, reads its inscription, passes it to the second scrutinator, who reads it also, then it's given to the third scrutinator, who reads the name aloud. Ashuga, Karchofa, some other, his name. Rabbi Müller is discussing angels. Then we have the angels of the throne, known in Hebrew as Arelim or Afanim. There are 70 of them, noted primarily for their steadfastness. Among them are angels Arifil, Afanil, Azebkil, Jephil, Ambriel, Tichagar, Barael, Kulamar, Parashar, Boel, and Raum. Some of these are no longer found in heaven and are numbered among the fallen angels in hell. So much for their steadfastness, says Kenneth. Then too, the rabbi goes on, there are the angels of the presence who apparently were circumcised at the moment of their creation. There are Michael, Metatron, Suriel, Sandalphon, Uriel, Srakael, Astanpharos, Phanuel, Joel, Zaggael, Ephiphiah, and Akatael. But I think my favorite of the whole group is the angel of lust, who is mentioned in Talmud Bereshit Rabbah 85 as follows, that when Judah was about to pass by, they have finished counting the lots by this time, surely. An immense throng has assembled in the square of St. Peter's. The sunlight gleams off hundreds, if not thousands, of steel-jacket craniums. This must be a wonderful day for the robot population of Rome. The most of these in the piazza are creatures of flesh and blood. Old women in black, gowned young pickpockets, boys with puppies, plump vendors of sausages, and the assortment of poets, philosophers, genius, legislators, tourists, and fishermen. How has the tally gone? Will we have our answer shortly? If no candidate has had a majority, they will mix the ballots with wet straw before casting them into chapel stove, and black smoke will bellow from the chimney. Nor if a pope has been elected, the stove will be dry, the smoke will be white. The system has agreeable resonances. I like it. It gives me the satisfaction so one normally derives from a flawless work of art. The distant chord, let us say, or the teeth of the frog in Bach's Temptation of St. Anthony. I await the outcome with fierce concentration. I am certain of the result. I can already feel the irresistible religious impulses awakening in me. Also, I feel also in nostalgia for the days of flesh and blood popes. Tomorrow's newspapers will have no interviews with the Holy Father's aged mother and Cecily nor with his proud younger brother in San Francisco. And will this grand ceremony of election ever be held again? Will we need another pope when this one whom we will soon have can be repaired so easily? Ah, the white smoke. The moment of revelation comes. A figure emerges on the central balcony of the facade of the St. Peter's, spreads a web of cloth of gold and disappears. The blaze of light against that fabric stuns the eye. It reminds me perhaps of moonlight coldly kissing the sea of Castellamare, or perhaps ever more of the noonday glare rebounding from the breast of the Caribbean or the coast of the St. John. A second figure, clad in ermine and vermilion, has appeared on the balcony. The Cardinal Archdeacon, Bishop Fitzpatrick whispers. People have started to faint. Luigi stands beside me, listening to the proceedings on the tiny radio. Kenneth says, "It's all been fixed." Rabbi Müller hisses at him to be still. Shh, shh, shh. Miss Hershaw begins to sob. Beverly softly recites the Pledge of Allegiance, crossing herself through her. This is a wonderful moment for me. I think it is the most truly contemporary moment I have ever experienced. The amplified voice of the Cardinal Archdeacon cries, "I announce to you the great joy. We have a Pope!" Cheering commences and grows in intensity as the Cardinal Archdeacon tells the world that newly chosen pontiff is indeed that cardinal, that noble and distinguished person, that melancholy and austere individual whose elevation to the Holy See we have all awaited so intensely for so long. He has imposed upon himself, says the Cardinal Archdeacon, the name of her. Lost in cheering, I turn to Luigi. Who? What name? Sister Settima, Luigi tells me. Yes, and there he is, Pope Sixtus the Seventh, as we now must call him, a tiny figure clad in the silver and gold papal robes, arms outstretched to the multitude, and yes, the sunlight glints on his cheeks, his lofty forehead. There is the brightness of polished steel. Luigi is already on his knees. I kneel beside him. Miss Hershaw, Beverly, Kenneth, Eva the Rabbi, all kneel, for beyond doubt this is a miraculous event. The Pope comes forward on his balcony. Now he will deliver the traditional apostolic benediction to the city and to the world. All help is in the name of the Lord, he declares gravely. He activates the levitator jets beneath his arms. Even at this distance I can see the two small puffs of smoke, white smoke again. He begins to rise into the air. Who had made the heaven, the earth? He says, "May Almighty God, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost bless you." His voice rolls majestically towards us. His shadow extends across the wall piazza. Higher and higher he goes, until he is lost to sight. Kenneth taps Luigi. "Another round of drinks," he says, and presses a bill of high denomination into the innkeeper's fleshy palm. Bishop Fitzpatrick weeps. Rabbi Mueller embraces Miss Harshaw. The new pontiff, I think, has begun his reign in an auspicious way.